what's it going to be like at the end of the podcast? What have you said to yourself? How does that feel?
So maybe live in the satisfaction of the job that's done, and you feel good about you're confident about the fact that you've put something out there that's of high quality.
Yeah.
So you kind of just move forward to that section.
You are. Okay. And you've reflected on it. So you've already like gone to the other side of it, reflected on it, and then you integrate it. So as you integrate it, you're coming back, because you've got to come back into your magic. What you want to be like as a musician. I don't know what exactly your role is, whether you're the drummer, the lead singer, the guitarist, or what exactly your status is.
Right.
However, what I would recommend is that you will have inspirational people that have gone before you. I have no doubt about that. And so you've got to kind of bring into your mind's eye, who is it that does what you want to do and the confidence that you want to have around it.
Because there's nothing new.
My name is Terri Messenger, and I am
Hey, and welcome to Terri Messenger's Genius Zone. And, you know, this is the place and the space where you are going to get your own free masterclass, absolutely free.
It's Edge Radio Australia, time for the Genius Zone. I have the resident genius herself in the building. It's lovely to see you, Terri. Are you ready for a big, fire into your genius self?
I'm not sure, Aaron.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I guess if this is ready, we'll just have to do it, won't we?
Well, exactly right. We'll live by the seat of our pants around here, don't we?
I reckon.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, you've got some great questions that have come in today, which is fantastic. Obviously we'll hop into those in just a moment, but do you want to sort of give a rundown of what today's about?
Yeah. Okay. So remember last week?
I do.
And we did some crazy REM, rapid eye movement.
Mm-hmm.
And for those guys who are a little bit new to the show, because I really need to acknowledge that some people might be watching this for the first time or listening for the first time.
We need to do that. We need to think about that, don't we? For sure.
You know, we do forget sometimes. We get carried away with ourselves. But, you know, firstly, so with the Genius Zone, it derives from Neuro-Linguistic Programming and hypnosis. And just for the record, somebody asked the other night on our Edge Pitch and Pizza, what is NLP? I thought, you know, wow, you know, why didn't I even think to introduce it that way? I just have this assumption that everybody's going to know exactly what I'm thinking. You know what I mean? Do you ever do that?
Well, you kind
just
of put it out to
think
the universe,
everybody just knows what's on your mind, and then you just assume that they're a genius or whatever?
It's a bit like how I answer a lot of my text messages in my head. So people send me a message and I go, no, and I deal with that. And people go, you didn't get back to me. I go, yes, I
dreamt it. See, that's the subconscious mind, you know.
No, really.
If you played in your brain, you might think you did it.
Okay.
NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which is actually the study of human excellence.
Okay.
So it came from Richard Bandler and John Grinder, and they were modeling some of the greatest psychotherapists where psychotherapy actually worked.
Okay.
And so they weren't looking at the lead up of the counselling and the questions, how does that feel? And, you know, then an hour comes along, you have to go home. They were looking at the brain on brainwave frequencies.
Okay.
when the person changed.
Right, a little bit of science on actually what the brain itself is doing.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
So they were looking and studying. I think John Grinder was the professor of the two. Bandler was, you know, the scallywag who was really, really good at NLP.
See, whenever I hear professor, I just think about Mary Ann. But that's just me. All right. She was my preference.
I know.
I wasn't a ginger
I always
fan.
wanted to be ginger, but everybody said, no, you're more of a Mary Ann.
Yeah, okay.
But now I'm complimented.
There you
so
go.
Okay, so that's really good. So, yeah, so they modelled people like Virginia Satir, who was the famous family therapist. Sure. And they also modelled Sigmund Freud.
Okay, he's a little famous.
Yeah, a little. And Sigmund Freud, you know, really analysed what mistakes were actually being made. So behind the scenes here today, there was so much going on, wasn't there?
There really is. We've got so much going on at the moment, so many changes. And you know what, as I don't know, some people embrace change, some don't. Sometimes it's a bit, you know, frustrating, but yeah, you got to.
It's always pushing you outside of your comfort zone.
So true.
And you know, the universe has got a bit of a sense of humor, so it'll throw a few obstacles like mice that don't work properly, and I'm talking the mouse, not the mice. We don't have mice in here. No. So Sigmund Freud, he came really through the theory of you've got to sort of analyze what is going wrong in your life and be able to recognize what it is, because a lot of people don't do that. NLP is a little bit different. They say don't dwell on it too much. Don't go around and around and nurse and rehearse problems. Just cut to the chase and get there real quick. So they have integrated a little bit of Freud in there where you've got to be able to look at your scenario, where you are in your life, and this is relevant for people who've brought in some questions today.
Sure.
Look at what is working and what is not working. Now, if something's not working or you have a mistake made, say the computer's not working or something's going wrong, like I made some mistakes last week, as you know, I put too many questions on the banner. So these are little practical things going on here in the background, but the relevancy to all our listeners and viewers is that you've got to be able to stand back and go, okay, what can I learn from this?
Life is a learning exercise.
It is.
You never stop.
It really, really is. So it's like, what can I learn from this? And then you make the change. Now, the change with the modelling of human excellence means, I'll go into a sports illustration.
Okay.
You know, let's just say you want to become a great tennis player. And you want to go and you want to be like, let's just say Novak. I know that he just lost the last tournament,
but he's got a pretty good history of being awesome, right?
You see how he cleaned up with Marcos, you know, the young European lad. Oh, my gosh.
That.
He totally cleaned up, but he'd injured his leg.
Right.
And, you know, obviously when he injured his leg, they had to give him injection, but he just totally nailed it. Now, when another tennis player comes along, they want to get into the brain of Novak. They want to get into his mind and go, what's he thinking when he's holding that racket? And it's really a game of strategy. They are having thought processes going on in their brain. They have belief systems going on in their brain. And if there's that much doubt, Aaron, you've lost.
You've lost.
So you have got to stay, especially in. I'm talking in a sport arena.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that one. And I want to just quickly say hi to Cara. Thank you very much for your little notes. And anyone who's got any questions or thoughts or whatever, please send them through. But yeah, the psychological part of sport it's a sport, right? Like the physicality obviously is important, but ultimately, if you haven't got the mental game, you haven't got game.
Yeah,
right?
Look, you've got to have a mentor. So let's just say for you, for example, you know, being the famous radio freedom of speech, you know, visionary that you are, you know, obviously we don't want to stand still. We want to be always ready to grow and expand and break through any of the levels that we're really dealing with now and not look at them. We can get really peeved off at the time with some of the frustrations and challenges that we meet, right? We're only human, but there has to come a point where we own it and say, okay, how can I make this better?
Yeah.
What can I do to go to the next level? And this is what we call breaking through that ceiling. So
Okay.
you want to break through that upper limit,
Sure.
because otherwise, how can you grow? So someone like, I'm just going to use you as an example, even if you have reached a pinnacle in your career, you still want to go, well, who has gone before me?
Yep.
Who has been like so exemplary at what they've done, and they have been so fabulous.
Well, there's so many people who are aspirational. You look at them and they inspire you. And I think, wow, I would love to do that kind of work. There is always a trailblazer to follow. Right?
Oh, yeah. And it's not about being them, because we need to own
No,
ourselves, but it's about being able to, I guess, quantum leap and make those processes of greatness happen quicker.
I agree.
Okay.
Yep.
So for example, if you have a great radio announcer that's gone before you, and you probably don't want to make anyone jealous out there, because I know a lot of people listen to you on the show. So, what you're really doing is you're looking at borrowing their belief.
Okay.
So,
geez, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, borrow their belief system.
All right.
So what are they telling themselves? What do they say about these kinds of situations? Napoleon Hill talks about having this whole boardroom of mentors that he didn't pay $1 for, and yet he had people sitting at his circle such as Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, the Rockefellers. I mean, and to think, but that was because it was an imaginary board of people.
Oh, I see. No, they weren't physically there.
They weren't physically there. And look, what they did was he would go, well, what would they say?
Yeah, okay.
What would they say about this? Someone did it with Abraham Lincoln and got into this huge situation where there was, it was really rife. Something really, really bad had happened, and they'd lost soldiers at war or anything. And then, the first impression that leader had was they need to be pulled out. They need to be sacked. They need to be annihilated. We need to take action against this person. But then as they looked up at Abraham, they went, well, what would have he done? Mm-hmm. And then they realized that he was very empathetic. He had a very empathetic heart. So using their imagination, they then put themselves into the position of that, high-ranking soldier or whoever it was, and recognized the fear, recognized the situation that was so terrible that was going on, and then actually wrote them a letter. But the first letter that was written was never sent, because it was a letter of termination, a letter of how dare you do that to all our boys, and how dare this and that and the other. But that second one was where he got into the mindset of someone that went before him.
I think often you've got to realise, is what we see publicly. I mean, we live in a world of Instagram and all of that kind of carry on, all that social stuff, that what's happening behind the scenes is so often very, very different to what you see physically there. Often, the duck is just floating on top of the water, and I'll tell you right now, those little feet are going crazy underneath, right?
Take it from us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, sometimes you've got to be that gliding duck, but also sometimes you've got to empathise with those crazy legs. Because there might be a great general, might be a great leader, but ultimately they still had their struggles. They still had their restrictions.
They do.
So
what were they thinking? But we can borrow the beliefs of the people that go before us, and step into that. Whether you're in the sports arena, whether you are a musician, whether you are a coach, you're a leader, and you're looking at, I've got one that I'll share more on our show tomorrow night on the one thing.
Yep.
So I won't take that away, but it's about someone that I've had to look at modeling right now. And I've had to ask myself a lot of questions around that. So make sure you're watching the one thing.
I've got my reservations about tomorrow's show, to be honest. The one thing is going to be happening from 5 p.m. So, don't miss that. It's going to be a really interesting show. I think because there's
very
so many
raw.
of us, that really care. It's going to be very raw. So yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll
Yeah.
keep away from that for the moment.
We won't go there, but
We
we'll look at how to break through the barriers,
Right.
and I guess at the same time flow with the law of least resistance.
Okay.
And I'm
Shall we
ready. I'm
jump
ready
into
for
the questions then? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. Let's bring that up. So there we are. This is from Tony in Sydney. Thank you very much, Tony. I watched your show last week and was curious about the eye movement technique. Now, can I use it for my musician skills? I am in a band and I'm terrified to perform publicly. That's a great question, mate.
It is. And
I know so many amazingly talented musos that have this issue.
Yeah.
It blows my mind.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
Really quite clear. So I know that is a great thing, mate. Yeah, look, let's go with that, Terri,
yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. So for those of you who weren't watching last week, we did a very mini minor DIY
We did.
of REM, which is rapid eye movement,
Sure.
based on that we are processing everything through our eyes, our visualization, our ears, what we hear, and what we feel in our body, our kinesthetic.
Okay.
And of course, there's olfactory and gustatory, which is the sense of smell and taste as well. But we usually focus in on visual, audible, kinesthetic, and then we use that to create a vision. So the first thing I'd say, Tony, is can you imagine what you want to be like as a musician? I don't know what exactly your role is, whether you're the drummer, the lead singer, the guitarist, or what exactly your status is.
Right.
However, what I would recommend is that you will have inspirational people that have gone before you. I have no doubt about that. And so you've got to kind of bring into your mind's eye, who is it that does what you want to do and the confidence that you want to have around it.
Because there's nothing new. What's new is your spin on it. Okay.
Yeah, that's all it is.
It's all been done before.
Yeah.
Just you put your flavour on it. So I mean, for a musician, this is particularly honest, I would tend to think, because every musician does things just a little bit differently, right? That's the beauty of it.
You've got to have your zone of genius. You've got to have. So don't hear me wrong when I say model excellence. It's about borrowing the beliefs, putting your own spin on it, as you say, and really tapping into that unique gift that you've got, because you always want to have something a little bit special,
of course,
so that you can stand out, and that's your little trademark. So that would be my first point of what I would say. Bring up that person who you really like. I was actually working with a beautiful woman. Oh my gosh, she had hair. My gosh, this woman had hair. She was like Beyonce's hair.
Right.
And when I asked her, because she's a singer and she had a lot of nerves, and I asked her, who is the musician you most aspire to?
Yep.
This is going back quite a few years ago now, in clinic, and it was Beyonce, right?
Okay.
And I can imagine, I mean, okay, so what we did was we got her to stand in, Beyonce. We got her to think about, well, what's Beyonce telling herself, when just before she goes on stage, how does she move? How does she speak? What is she saying in her brain that is really pumping her, firing her up? Because she's probably not saying, I'm nervous, I've got so much anxiety, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I mean, if that's the case, that's okay, you guys, but you've got to put it aside.
Okay.
You've got to be able to get that bag of nerves or whatever is going on for you and literally just suspend it, put it to the side, and bring in that feeling of confidence. So, Tony, think about your person that you really look up to. What do you think they might say to themselves? And, begin practicing it in your visualization. So as you visualize that in your mind's eye, then anchor it. So if you anchor it, you can use that anchor. So I set up an anchor when I first learned NLP. I wasn't even trained or certified.
Okay.
And I went to a Chris Howard convention.
Right.
And he was really dynamic at the time. And he's changed a lot. He's changed, well, as we all do. He's evolved in a different way. But he was very dynamic, where he got everybody to look at themselves in how they want to be, like, who are you? How do you look in that moment? And then anchored in the confidence, the certainty, the power. And then he got that golden light and got us to move into that golden light and actually, stand in it. And I can never do a demo here sitting down on edge.
Oh, come on.
However, I can do a demo like standing up, and maybe I will do it one day. But it's a full on, and you can see my whole physiology change.
Really?
Like I should really do it every time I walk in here.
Okay.
But you'll see my physiology change, and that's because I've set it up. Just to do a brief one though, if you set up your role model and all of the things, what do you want to feel like, Tony? Do you want to feel confident? What do you want to say to yourself? Like, I've got this, and go over on the other side of it. Like, you've got to be present while you are playing the drums or while you are singing. You've got to be present. There's no doubt, because that's the magic right there. However, before you go on stage, go out into the future and land as if it's done. And it's like, oh, wow, oh, what a rock star. Wow, that was me.
Check me out.
And really have that, because what you're doing then is you're tricking your subconscious mind into thinking, well, it's already happened.
Right.
So it doesn't bring the nerves on so much.
It takes away the anxiety, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because I do it before I podcast, so I do it with my guests. So a lot of them are very nervous. So I get them to do a 2-minute transition of floating in. What's it going to be like at the end of the podcast? What have you said to yourself? How does that feel?
So maybe live in the satisfaction of the job that's done, and you feel good about you're confident about the fact that you've put something out there that's of high quality.
Yeah.
So you kind of just move forward to that section.
You are.
Okay.
You've reflected on it. So you've already gone to the other side of it, reflected on it, and then you integrate it. So as you integrate it, you're coming back, because you've got to come back into your magic.
Do you?
Into your presence. Yeah, absolutely. Like you wouldn't be, as I said, you wouldn't be free falling thinking about what you're going to have for dinner tonight, right?
No.
So you really got to be in the present tense and 100%, because that's where the magic really is, right? I said that to you the other week too, because you're a great radio presenter, and so by you, like with you doing all these things, it's like, I don't know how you stay in the present so much, honestly.
Oh, look, for me, it's an interesting thing. So, obviously radio's changed. Look, you're looking at us, it's really not radio these days. It's very much, a hybrid between TV.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you say that. I did 2 radio shows earlier today that are good old school radio shows, on the mic with a guest, no visuals, and it's just comfortable, and everything's where it is. And like anything, life moves on and changes, and you've got to roll with those changes.
Yeah.
So
it's less inhibitions, isn't it? I think when
you might be right.
when you're looking at yourself and you can see that visual, it puts a lot more nerves into people, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas if you pretend that there is no audience, like, it's actually better to pretend that there's not.
Oh, okay. I'll use.
Or just they're just listeners. They're just listening.
I used to have a radio announcer I used to work with years ago that he had issues with talking to no one. So he would literally, because you're sitting in a studio on your own, very often, and he actually had a tennis ball with a smiley face on it that would hang from the other side of the room. So he would talk and have a conversation with this tennis ball. And I'm like, mate, that's a bit strange.
Is that why they have crowds, in some of these comedy shows where they have a pretend audience clapping and laughing?
100%. Yeah. It gives people that sort of thing. But
you see it on TikTok too, on, some of the radio shows, and there's like the background, like people laughing and egging on the presenter.
That's right.
And so, I believe, absolutely. So just to conclude that, Tony, so anchor yourself, find your role model with your nerves in relation to the last week's show. You watched it. If anybody didn't, go back and watch it or listen to it on Edge Radio. I don't know whether they can.
Yeah, no, they can. So we will replay that from time to time.
Yeah.
Obviously, the replay of today's show will be on Sunday at
3 p.m.
3 p.m.
3 p.m.
Get the audio there.
Yes. So you can use the rapid eye movement, and what that does is it's like a rewind forward, and like Benny Hill music over the top of it. Like, if you imagine,
I love that music.
back forward, and then anchor yourself, and then, as I said, visualize who you want to be, integrate back into it, and be present.
Love it. All right, let's jump to another question. Thanks for that, Tony. Where are we? So there we go. This is a question from Sandy. Sandy's in Canada, a long way away. So you're probably watching this in the middle of the night, or maybe tomorrow. Who knows?
Yeah, replay.
Now, this is a bit of a serious one, and I love the fact that I love the fact that people feel confident that they can contact us about stuff like this. I think it's really, really important because the old problem is a problem shared is a problem halved. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's go with this.
And they don't have to say their last names,
No.
and you can even make up a name. We don't mind, whatever you're comfortable with. Just bring your questions in.
Sounds good to me. So Sandy said, I'm in a downward spiral of depression. I used to be happy-go-lucky, but after my marriage ended, I can't move on. Do you have tips for getting back to normal? Look at that word, normal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, it is normal.
Yes.
Okay. What you're going through is normal.
100%.
Mm-hmm. So, apart from time being the greatest healer, there still needs to be a shift in the way you see the relationship. And believe it or not, in my experience, this can quite often be the hardest thing to tell clients. Own the experience.
Okay.
In other words, shift the blame. Like, quite often people will say, you did that to me, or that was your fault.
Sure.
But the moment you take back your power and look at it from, well, what really did this mean for the other person?
Yeah.
What could have it meant? And there are really powerful and probably more in-depth modalities we can do around this, which I won't do on the show.
Okay.
But let's just say it in layman's terms, that if you take back your ownership and you don't allow yourself to go down that road of victimhood, I mean, there's always going to be, that element, and we all do it. Let's face it. It's normal, but you have to decide. See, when people change, only one person can decide to change, and that's you. Okay.
Correct.
So it's how far do you want to go? How much can you allow your life go to rack and ruin, and how much power are you prepared to give that other person?
That's a biggie. That's a very big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what Bandler used to say? Because he liked putting people into a bit of a shock treatment.
Okay.
So he'd say, like, how much do you think about this anyways? Whatever the person's, that's really hating on the other person or feeling victimized. He goes, think about it. I think about it every single day. He says, do you want to sort of give me an idea? Like, are we talking like a minute? This could be like 2 hours a day by the time I spread it out. But it was worse than that. I couldn't think about anything else when it first happened. He said, how long ago did this actually happen? He worked it out that it was around about 12 months ago.
Okay.
So if he was focusing on it for every day for an hour, he calculated every single hour that person was dwelling and said, how much do you actually get paid?
I want that check coming, right?
The hourly rate. You are literally, it's a huge price to pay, but you are that other person that's hurt you, that's done you wrong. They're not suffering and you're suffering. In fact, I can say this over and over again. It's a very interesting concept in the power of letting go.
Oh, my word, yeah.
Oh, so powerful.
Look, I would like to use the one that was actually shared with me, which I now it changed my life, right? Full stop, this changed my life. So somebody hurt me very, very badly, all right? And I, was struggling with it, and I was, like Sandy, it was really monopolizing my life, and it changed who I was, right? And somebody actually came up with the phrase and said to me one day, that why are you letting them live rent-free in your head?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? Like, while you're thinking about it, this person's not. They've moved, they've changed their life, all that kind of carry on. They're living their nice, comfy life, doing their thing, right? They're not thinking about you at all. But they're living rent-free in your head. So how much are you going to charge them for this?
This is it.
And I thought, oh my word, like it was a light switch moment for me. It really was.
Look, absolutely. And they're those moments, turning point moments,
100%.
pivotal moments when people get to the end of the line and go, I'm not doing this anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually thank the person who did me wrong, right? Because it taught me so much. It taught me how to, because I didn't do this before, how to draw a line and go, okay, I'm stepping past this now. You don't own this space in my brain. You don't have a part of my heart anymore. Okay, you don't deserve that. Okay, you've done something of such magnitude that you don't need to be there anymore.
Yeah.
And it was very freeing, right? And I hope Sandy can feel that, because look, I understand if you've got, a situation where it's a marriage relationship, it could be a family member, whatever. These are hard things to move on from.
Yeah.
And the sad thing too with a lot of marriage breakups is one party is out of the relationship 12 months before the other one even knows there's a problem.
Yes, right? Very much.
Yep, there's a lot of research on that.
Especially women, they've planned their exit.
Yep.
Probably a good 6 to 12 months. So when everyone else gets shocked,
yes,
I can vouch for that, because that happened to me.
There you go.
Like, if people thought it was sudden, it was not sudden. I'd been thinking about it for probably 2 years.
The research has shown that recently. I didn't want to say it because he's a misogynist if he says it. So glad you said it. Thank you, Terry. But the research is showing that basically in these situations, women are generally out of the relationship, have called it, and that's why there's not a grieving period for so many.
Yes.
So that's why you can move on so quickly.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
You've spent 12 months, you finished with the relationship, you've grieved rather.
Yeah.
Maybe you're doing a little grieving now. It's very interesting. So for yourself, Sandy, I actually feel for you, because depression is a horrible spiral, horrible place to be, and we'd love to see that happy-go-lucky person come back. So for me, the rent-free thing worked, and there's so many other...
and that's a great thing, because that's what you told yourself, and this is what NLP calls a reframe.
Yep.
So reframing it, how can you reframe it? Now, there are things, I don't want to be, play rainbows and butterflies here, but there are obviously things that may have traumatized you. I know that's a really big word, but there may be things that really impacted you, and there are ways, obviously not on this show, but there are ways that you can deal with that, and deal with some of the emotional baggage that you've come under attack with. So if you can release a lot of that stuff and actually reframe your life, because your life and the hours in your life is so precious.
Agreed. This is the thing, NLP, this is my take on it, that enabled me to draw that line, right? Without it, I wouldn't have. And whether I realised I was doing it or not, for me, it was a phrase that did it, but it could be, it could be a physical exercise, it could be this, that, whatever happens to be for you.
Yeah, sorry, that reminds me of a quick story. Can I say it?
Absolutely.
But disclaimer, I don't go along with this. This is not something I completely, I don't suggest, I'm not promoting it, but this is something that did happen in real life. And that was in clinic. I did have a client, and they were seeing me for a long time, and they had made such huge progress in their life. And one day their relationship just fell apart, just like what you've said, Sandy, and their partner left them. And they were devastated. Of
course.
And, I might have said it on this show, but I'm sure there'll be new ears and eyes on here. So he came to me and he said, I need you to help me get her out of my head.
Right.
I want her out of my head now, Terri. Yep. And I went, I'm not going to do that.
Why?
And
gee, that's a bit mean.
Yeah, I know, right? And I'll tell you, he said, I can't deal with this. And I said, because you have not grieved. And he'd been through so much work with me. He knew the power of NLP.
Okay.
And how you can release and let things go. Okay. My theory was that I leave the heart alone.
Right.
So in his heart, I mean, getting it out of his head is one thing.
Sure.
Getting it out of his heart is another. After about 3 sessions coming backwards and forwards, he actually told me, I want to do this process, and we did do it.
Good stuff.
So what that meant is he neutralized it.
Okay.
And that enabled him to get on with his life.
Well, very lucky indeed. I'm going to quickly say hi to Sonia. So there, lovely for you to say hello in the corner there. I'm going to pop up the next question as well, if I may. There we go. Now, this is from Bev. Bev is in Perth. Hey, Bev, just drop in, okay? Here we are. We're in Mount Lawley. Just drop in and say hi, right? Why not? Let's look at your comment here. So this is not about me, but my brother. Sure it is. Okay. I've got a friend with this problem. No, I'm only teasing. Now, he hasn't worked for 2 years and struggles to leave the house. This is a biggie. I'm having a lot of this at the moment. The longer it goes, the worse it seems. Can NLP or hypnosis help?
Damn straight it can.
Oh.
Absolutely damn straight. Now, the fact that you say 2 years, firstly, if he has ever worked before in his life, if you've seen him in a different world and he has been a different person, then he can get back to that person.
Okay.
He can get back to who he was. May I suggest, Bev, that number one, something has happened to him.
Of course.
Now, it doesn't always mean that it's happened, 2 years ago or in that period of time. Sometimes it can happen in childhood where something flares it up in adulthood. And something it's like something just wakes it up, the memory. And then this is what happens, right? So it's kind of held in the body, in the library of the body.
Now, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, go for it.
I used to think this is absolute rubbish, right? Okay. I lived with the whole thought of, when they go, tell me about your childhood, right? I said, oh, here we go, right? And I can say this, and I won't go into detail and bore everybody's death, but I realise that something I do, a pattern of my behaviour that has caused me a lot of negativity in my life, I learned in childhood, right?
Yeah, of course you did.
2 particular events that happened in my life, right, that made me, they changed me. I mean, they imprinted so heavily on me. Now, I didn't think it was a big deal, back then, or perhaps I did. Maybe I put it away. Maybe I, like, as a bloke, we like to put things in boxes and file them by throwing them away. But yeah, look, I realised that my interaction with a lot of relationships I've had so much to do with 2 events that happened in my life as a child, right? About the age of kind of like, I don't know, 8, 9 kind of thing. And you think, so what I'm getting at is, and I hate to use all of the words that we all float around, but trauma.
Yeah.
But a couple of really nasty traumas from that time have shaped my life. So with this person who's stuck at home and getting out of that rut, this could be something from a long time ago that they're thrown in that box, thrown away, whatever, and now someone's
triggered it.
Something's happened.
Something's triggered it.
Box.
Now, needless to say, it could have been something. I'm not saying that it wasn't. But quite often it can be related to whatever's triggered it off, can be relative to something like you just said that happened back in childhood.
Yeah.
So, Bev, from where you're standing, the only thing if you're a person who is not a practitioner, coach, healer, or you are not clued up about this stuff, the greatest gift you can do for him is be very clever and reminisce a little bit about the olden days. Because if you can get his brain to kind of move into that, remember when we did this, and highlighting, the way he was, what you're doing is you're re-anchoring him in a very safe way. There's nothing wrong with a person who doesn't know this stuff to do that.
Right.
But you can be very intentional about it. You can even think of, 3 things in your memory where he, did really well. He might have won something in school.
Okay.
He may have, bought himself his first car. He may have had a child. I don't know.
Sure.
where they're highlights in his life and you happen to remember them and you happen to talk about them, but then you can cleverly really make them very vivid and compelling by getting him to recall it, like, so that he almost sees it in the eye of his mind and, remember what they said, like then he's remembering what he's
Sure.
heard and also how he felt. So, aside from that, I will say that you are not the only one. I can remember in clinic a lady coming in and saying, "This is my last step. I can't do anything more." My husband is in this situation where he's paralyzed, and he was pretty non-compass as well. And he was a very empowered man. She didn't marry him that way. He became that way. And she said, "I don't even know how I'm going to get him into the clinic. I don't know how." But she did. She brought him into the clinic. Now, this is what makes me say to you, Bev, that it may have been triggered from a childhood memory because something had happened whilst he was driving in a car with his mother. I don't remember the exact everything around it, not that it matters anyways, but it happened where it flared up this memory, and something in the relevance of his present moment had brought it back. So that was really his subconscious mind going, "Okay, here's the card. You going to deal with it?"
Yep. That's a really interesting way of putting it. Yeah. Wow. All right. Laid it out there, haven't you?
Yeah. So life is a game of chess.
So often, I tell you, and I'm playing checkers half the time. But I mean, and there's another side of that. Okay, the positive and the negative, right? So years ago, and I just quick little hello to Angela. I noticed that you said hello before, so I just want to say hi. Lovely to have you as part of the show. I mean, I was talking to my cousin, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and he was talking about some of the stuff that he and I used to get around and do. And he's a few years younger, right? And so, it's a different dynamic and yada, yada. And we were talking about crazy stuff we used to do in cars and off-road buggies and motorbikes and all of that. And it was such a nice thing as far as the reframing and moving your mind to a positive, right? He's telling me these things from his perspective, and I'd never seen them that way before. And now that this was put in front of me, it enabled me to see this really in a really positive way. And it's a nice thing for me because now, I don't know, if I need a little reframing, I can go, I'll drop in at that point. And this is a big thing. And maybe I'm sort of basing on this on what you've said, obviously, that maybe for your brother, maybe it's a case of finding some memory in the past that you can place him there. If you can place him there, then he can do the work himself.
Absolutely. They often say people don't remember every word you tell them. People remember how you made them feel.
100% true. That's so, wow.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, Bev, if you can work on that, perhaps if you want to even message me, drop a message in my inbox or go to terrimessenger.com and I can give you some resources on how to anchor. So, just so that you can be talking him through it because it's safe and anyone can do it.
Yeah.
And I can teach it to a kindy child.
You are master of your own domain, right? And
You are.
This is really about skills. Okay, this is about with NLP, this is or hypnosis or any of these sorts of things. It's about actually giving people the skills, the tools to work on themselves. Ultimately, nobody out there is going to fix you, right? And even the term fix is probably wrong, right? But ultimately, and I can say this very, very honestly from very true experiences. I've had the lowest of lows. I've been as low as anybody can get. And ultimately talking to people, getting good advice, getting techniques that will take you, will give you the skills to reframe and put you where you need to be. This is vital. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. You're the only one who can make the change.
See, out of the mouth of Aaron Malloy, and this is the thing, if you knew Aaron's story, and for those of you who haven't, go check it out. I think you can Google this guy, right? But he's got a big
There's some
story.
shocking pictures in there.
And you may well just say to yourself, well, what is Aaron's belief system for him to be sitting in front of the, radio station, in front of the mic, in front of the live audience? What did he do to get himself from there to here? And that's why people are not interested in following perfect people.
No.
They're more interested in following imperfect people that have been through the mill, that can actually say, I've been here too, and this is, what I've done to help myself get out of it.
To me, I mean, they're the people I seek out. People with credibility, right? Okay. I don't want people like, you look at politicians and they all want to be squeaky clean and all of you. No. I want warts and all. Yep. I want to know somebody who's been, I don't want people to go to hell and back, but I'll tell you right now, I want to see how they've actually reacted to adversity.
Yes.
That's the big thing.
That's
right?
huge. Yeah. That's a really big one. It's how you come through it.
Yep.
And what you do with that, which I'm definitely going to be bringing this up on the one thing. I said that again, I know, but
it's going to
free
be a big
promotion.
show.
But we're going to be doing that tomorrow night. That's Thursday. But anyway, you know what? In terms of, obviously the hypnosis, you do need a professional on that. And a lot of people get a little bit dubious. There's even people, around this community that go, oh, I don't know how I quite feel about hypnosis. But, what I want to say is I don't feel like I hypnotize people. I feel like I unhypnotize them.
Oh, different look at that.
Yeah, because they're playing this game and they're doing this game of life. And what we're doing is we're undoing it. So whether that is
100%.
So whether it's an addiction, a self-sabotaging, whether it's a feeling, whatever it is, we are unraveling that.
Hey, computer terms, because, okay, just before we went on air, we're playing with the computers. I'm not going to carry on, right? Computer terms. We have been programmed for such a long time. Media, entertainment has programmed us to push, right? It's a little bit like, in my belief in life, it's time for a little Control-Alt-Delete. Boom.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Let's restart. Let's reset. Okay? For ourselves, for our own soul, and for what we want to go forward with. Now, whatever that means, whatever your little happy place is, it could be spiritual, it might be, I don't know, it might be even financial, it could be whatever, right? Okay. Okay. Your tickets are your tickets. The thing that you're after, whatever makes you joyful, go for that. But ultimately, we've got so many things in life have actually been holding us back, and have been programming us to be negative. Control-Alt-Delete.
It's the software, isn't it?
It is.
And,
hardware's good.
Yeah, the hardware is good. However, it's the age-old saying, turn it off, turn it on again.
Yeah.
I used to have this thing, if something really bugged me, I needed to stop where I was. If I was going to change states, and this is before I was a practitioner, this is when I was quite young, I'd go and have a shower, and then somehow that was like a physical, spiritual and emotional cleansing, and then that would be like reset.
So true. Actually, on this front, for Bev and her brother, I mean, I know it's going to be hard for you to say to your brother, go and have a shower. Jeez, how well does that go? But honestly, there is a very, very simple tool for when you're living, when you're living in depression, okay? When things are tough, and this is, I suppose this goes for our earlier question as well, any level of depression, okay? Get in under that hot water. Right, like honestly,
or cold,
whatever makes you fancy. But there's a way of using a physical element to try and reset you.
Anything.
Give it a go.
Just walk away from it.
Yeah.
Blink your eyes. The law of least resistance. Let it go. Come back again and fire it up.
No matter what, you're always bringing up that movie, Let It Go, Let It Go. And with that, we'll end the show. Thank you so much for being part of it. I've been watching people jumping in and out through all the different formats, so there's going to be a lot of questions that'll come up on the other feeds that we'll see during the week. So thank you so much for that. Love that. It's cool to have a look back. Of course, you can watch this whenever you like, and, if it brings you some sort of positivity, then I think we've hit the ticket. For tomorrow, actually, no, I'll talk about tonight very quickly. Tonight, for those who are watching this and want to see something that might be very thought-provoking, get yourself down to the Subiaco Football Club. They're in Leederville. There is an amazing documentary that's actually having its premiere tonight. I've got the absolute pleasure of being the MC for that one. Wow. So that is COVID 1984, the Western Australian experience. Or experiment, perhaps experiment, actually. There you go. I didn't want to use the same words as Mark McLeod, but there we go. Anyway, that's going to be great. And tomorrow, it's going to be a big emotional thing for all of us here at Edge, I think. The one thing from 5 p.m., watch on wherever you want to watch, whether it be socials, whether it be, I don't know. Anyway, great to talk to, Facebook or YouTube or any of that. But be part of tomorrow night's show from 5 with one thing. As I say, I think it's going to be emotional. I think we might see some tears.
It's going to be raw. It's going to be
very
real.
raw. It's going to be very real. All right. So with that, we will get out of here. Thank you, Terri, for being the genius that you are here on the Genius Zone. Big love to you. And we're out of here. It's Edge Radio Australia.
Yay.
A show where we have explored through this various topic along with all the exciting new topics that we bring every week to enhance your personal mastery of excellence. Now, I'd love you to do me a favor. In fact, be part of the Legacy 1 million that I have in the vision for 2028. If you know someone who really would benefit from this recording, from this episode, please share it with them. And when you subscribe, you get notified every week of our episode as soon as it drops. So let's do that legacy thing. Let's share, let's care, let's enrich. And I look forward to bringing you another week of the most enriching content. So until next time, stay inspired, stay awesome, and keep on mastering your excellence.